So, any questions or comments from you?
I've got a sort of question. I was wondering what you think about why does love seem to be one of the most terrifying things? And it seems that it's almost like the fear of death. It's like on the same sort of level. I suspect it's something to do with being so exposed, and also with losing a separate sense of self. It's almost also maybe a lot of the fear is actually fear of seeing yourself.
Yes, that makes sense to me, and I think it does expose us in a way that many of us would prefer not to be exposed, and it's not what we think love's about. When we first start out, we think it's going to be romantic and wonderful. But if it continues beyond that into something very deep between you and others, it is very frightening because it does expose ourselves. And yet it's worth the risk when what else is there to do but to be willing to love deeply. And it's, people easily think they're in love, and that's almost like a romantic game that they're playing. I mean, the love is so unconditional if it's true love. And then it's more than losing a person. It's about losing oneself, and that's very frightening. As I was, in a sense, trying to point out, what would happen to me if one of my children died? Would I be completely at sea? I wouldn't know who I was or what to do anymore. It would be terrifying.
I do remember once the first thought that came to my mind when I sort of felt really deep love for someone. I hope I die first.
And then, in a way, you must see the selfishness of that, because they're probably hoping the same thing. So I think that's why sometimes people have pacts. I remember my parents once, when they flew back to Africa, and my mum saying, "I hope there's a tremendous plane crash and your father and I die exactly the same time." I could understand that, and they didn't. She died well before him. And it's we try to protect ourselves because we feel so vulnerable. And you can make things out. I just thinking in relation to Rory that sometimes thinking, why do I love this being so intensely? I mean, thank goodness it's spread out now to all other beings, but why him? Oh, it must be some past life connection. And then I'd make up all sorts of fantastic stories and believe them. And I can recall them quite clearly. And I don't know, maybe they were true, but maybe it was just a way of trying to explain something very deep to myself, and maybe it wasn't true.
As you were talking, I was thinking about the times in my life when somebody close to me has died or is dying, and especially the times when that's been sudden, and how for a short time everything changes, and all the things that you thought mattered don't matter, and there's something quite precious about that time. But it doesn't last. Like everything doesn't last. I don't know. I'm not sure it's really a question. What I'm saying is really a question, just a thought, really. That I suppose there's something in me that perhaps wishes that you could retain something of that, because, well, partly because you're so much more helpful to people in that state.
And so are you sure it is lost?
When somebody dies.
The change of feeling, someone that you love dearly, and just the sense that everything, it's actually saying about clicks into place again, and then it unclicks again, but I suspect it isn't lost, and it's there to draw on times when we need to.
Yeah. Yeah, I have that sort of experience in smaller ways, I think. Especially being here, sometimes you're just going through a phase where you feel very alive to everything that's happening, and then that kind of fades and something else comes in. But I think just knowing that, well, I hope that makes quite a difference.
Do you guys know what Charlie's talking about?
No.
No, they're nodding as if they do.
I remember Master Jiyu saying that in her darkest times, the thing that kept her going was a I don't want to misquote her, but that memory of she used the word kensho, but a kind of memory of being able to let go, if just to reword it, that kind of memory of a lighter way of being. Something that sprung to mind just as saying that. It does help.
Yeah, yes, I think that is the way it's helpful, in just knowing that actually you got through a very dark time, and that means you can do it again. And then there's this wonderful other side of the coin that it shows you how it's impossible to hold on to something that's very bright the whole time. It will change, and it doesn't mean it's gone forever. One side is in darkness, the other side is light, and it just changes around.
There's something that strikes me as well is death is tremendously bright as well. You know what I mean? I tend to think of it as the dark, worst thing that's possible, but somehow it has something very, very bright in it.
Yes, and I saw that so clearly in Brian, that he knew he was dying of cancer, and he wasn't afraid. He was just terribly interested. I wonder what it would be like, death. Really looking forward to it. And then they thought they were helping him, and they took him off to have another operation that was hugely unsuccessful, and the pain got more and more intense, and the brightness just evaporated because the pain was so intense. But You know, he was in a hospice, and they do know when it's just too much, and they allowed to use the morphine that allows the person to die. But it was that sense of him just so intrigued, you know, death's coming soon, it will be so interesting.
Mm. I think my grandmother looked forward to dying for about 25 years.
And when she did die, how was that?
That was very good. Yeah, it's very peaceful. I'm sure I've told you this before. She'd have a speech every year at Christmas saying, "Oh, next year I won't be here, so I'm giving this speech." every year for 25 years.
Brown State's so generous. They often seem to give people ice cream when they know they're about to die. And he was eating his ice cream with mostly haven't stopped eating altogether. And he said, "Oh, would you like some of this, Leandra?" And I just thought, gosh, you are a lovely man. He was a biker, and all his friends from Gateshead at the memorial service. He worked as an electrician, I think, for a big company there. That chap was absolutely full of these big, burly guys who'd come to honour Brown. It was quite something. His ashes are just by the Sankey shrine, the other side of the waterfall. So, there's a harm to go to evening service.